Thank you and good morning, Chairwoman Bass, Chairman Nadler, Congressman McClintock, and honorable members of the House Judiciary Committee. I speak to you today as the founder and board president of Doctors for Cannabis Regulation, or DFCR. DFCR is the leading national physicians association dedicated to the legalization, taxation, and above all, the effective regulation of cannabis for adults. DFCR has hundreds of respected physicians, members in nearly every U.S. state and territory. As physicians, we believe that cannabis should never have been made illegal for consenting adults. It is less harmful to adults than alcohol and tobacco, and the prohibition has done far more damage to our society than the adult use of cannabis itself. However, it is not harmless. People who are predisposed to psychotic disorder should avoid any cannabis use. Also, as with alcohol and other drugs, heavy cannabis use may adversely affect brain development in minors. But cannabis prohibition for adults does not prevent underage use nor limit its availability. For decades, preventive education has reduced the rates of alcohol and tobacco use by minors. At the same time, underage cannabis use rose steadily despite its prohibition. In the past several years, as more states legalize cannabis for adults, the rate of underage use has leveled off. Some have argued that if cannabis is legal for adults, then minors will think it's safe for them. But when cannabis is against the law for everyone, the government sends the message that it is dangerous for everyone. Teenagers know that's not true. By creating a legal distinction between use by adults and minors, we teach a respect for scientific evidence and the sanctity of the law. This may be why teen use has remained level or decreased in legalized states. Cannabis use can impair driving, as can most psychoactive drugs, including antidepressants, antipsychotics, sedatives, opioids, and even stimulants, especially among inexperienced users. But driving under the influence of cannabis and other drugs is already a criminal offense in every jurisdiction, including in legalized states. And in legalized states, studies show no adverse impact on traffic safety resulting from legalization. There is a persistent misconception that cannabis is a gateway drug. While users of hard drugs often try cannabis first, they're even more likely to try alcohol and tobacco. But not surprisingly, people generally try less dangerous drugs before trying more dangerous drugs. But the vast majority of those who try cannabis, alcohol, and tobacco never go on to use harder drugs. As we learned in high school, correlation does not imply causation. In 2019, even those who oppose legalization generally believe that cannabis should be decriminalized. But decriminalization is an inadequate substitute for legalization. In legalized states, government-licensed retailers scrupulously check IDs and only sell cannabis products to adults. But where it is merely decriminalized, the point of sale remains in the hands of drug dealers who sell cannabis, along with more dangerous drugs, to children. Where cannabis is only decriminalized, the government cannot regulate the production, testing, or labeling products, which means that users consume an untested and potentially adulterated product of unknown potency. According to the Controlled Substances Act, a Schedule I drug must meet 3 specific criteria: high potential for abuse, no currently accepted medical use, and a lack of accepted safety. Cannabis does not meet any of these criteria, and that is why today most states and a majority of physicians recognize the therapeutic value and relative safety of cannabis as a medicine. But cannabis shouldn't simply be rescheduled. Like alcohol, it should be removed from the Controlled Substances Act completely. Even if it had no medical value, a free society should not punish competent adults for the personal use of this non-lethal plant. We must stop using a sledgehammer to kill a weed. Informed physicians may disagree about the specifics of good regulation, but we can no longer support a prohibition that has done so much damage to public health and personal liberty. Members of the House Judiciary Committee, Please work with us to advance public health and protect our children through effective, evidence-based regulation of cannabis in the United States. My teenage children are growing up in a nation that does not regulate the cannabis industry. I want future generations of teenagers to grow up in an America that does. I thank you for your time.